Torres is waiting for your signal. Shoot off a flare when you're ready to come home.
Agent down. Got the range.
Welcome back to another Division 2 build guide. My name is LtBuzzLitebeer and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the exotic marksman rifle introduced with Title Update 15, and this is going to be a different format for today's video, as I'm going to attempt to jam two different sniper builds into this one video, to give you some options. I appreciate all the love you have been showing my recent uploads, and in case you aren't yet a subscriber, please smash that big, beautiful sub button and make sure to ring the bell to stay up to date on all my latest uploads. Let's dive right into this one. Full disclosure, just being upfront, the Dredd Edict is my least favorite exotic we received as part of the latest update due to a whole host of deficiencies like low base damage, high recoil, and limited to a 10-round base magazine. But with the two builds I'm going to show you in this video, there are ways to incorporate this new marksman rifle into your loadouts. I think it goes without saying that for this build, you will want to be using the sharpshooter specialization. One in the head will increase our headshot damage for rifles and marksman rifles by 15%, while breath control grants us 15% weapon stability, reducing recoil and granting us faster target reacquisition. Now, the Dredd Edict has some pretty noticeable stability issues, and without some form of reduction, whether through the sharpshooter perks, talents, or gear attributes, it can be a real handful to try and control. On to setup number one, and this one caters to players that want to hit hard but don't want to be tied entirely to landing headshots consistently. Maybe you struggle with your console aim or are just too wild with the left mouse button to be bothered with aiming for the head. Well, this is going to be the setup for you. For the mask, I recommend using the exotic Coyote's mask for the extra crit chance and crit damage at varied ranges. Plus, using this mask will make you friends with your teammates as they get those added crit benefits as well. For the attributes, I went with crit chance, crit damage, and finished it off with a crit damage mod. For the body armor, I went with a Providence piece for the bonus headshot damage, and the attributes are crit chance and crit damage along with another crit damage mod. For the talent, I chose Spotter to get 15% amp damage, and remember that is a multiplicative damage type, versus pulsed enemies. The holster is Grupo Sombra for that 15% more crit damage, along with crit hit damage and weapon handling as the attributes. Remember that the Dredd kicks hard, so little bits of weapon handling can really help out with control issues. The backpack is our second piece of Providence for plus 10% crit hit chance, and I am again using crit hit chance and crit hit damage as the attributes, along with a crit hit damage mod. Vigilance is the talent I am using for the plus 25% weapon damage, and since the Dredd awards us bonus armor on reloads, we can potentially keep that bonus with greater uptime, as Vigilance does not go away when bonus armor is active. Other possible talents could be opportunistic or concussion. It's really up to you. The gloves are Araldi for the plus 10% marksman rifle damage, along with crit hit chance and crit damage as the attributes. And finally, the Fox's Prayer named knee pads work really well with this setup for the plus 10% rifle damage, along with the plus 8% damage to targets out of cover, which again is multiplicative. I am using crit damage as the second attribute. Overall stats for this build at rest are 54% crit hit chance, 167% crit hit damage, and 191% headshot damage. Now the idea is that we can still get to spam the trigger and hit hard, reaching our max damage output when we hit a headshot and combo with a crit. Testing down at the range, this build using the Dredd Edict consistently hits headshot crits at 3.6 mil with a controlled trigger rhythm. But I'm not gonna lie, it's a chore to keep on target, and by comparison, my classic M1A using this same setup hits 2.8 mil crit headshots and is considerably easier to keep on target. Also, once I activate Pulse for that extra amp damage, the M1A hits 2.7 mil crit body shots. so you've got a wide area of target to shoot at with multiple rifles. I'll show you more on the weaponry a little later in this video. Skills on this setup are the pulse to proc the spotter damage bonuses and light up targets even behind cover, along with a decoy to draw some aggro when I start to get overwhelmed. As per your requests, my Shade Watch is maxed out, so the build receives 10% weapon damage, 20% headshot bonuses, 10% crit hit chance bonuses, and 20% crit damage bonuses, which are all added to the build stats. Moving on, and this second setup is for players that want to embrace the full sniper technique and just go for headshots. And for this build, I chose to rock the 4-piece Aces and 8s gear, starting off with the mask that has weapon damage, headshot damage as the attribute, along with a headshot damage mod. For this setup, I am not using the ASUS chest or backpack, but have instead gone with the named Walker Harris & Co. Chain Killer for the extra weapon damage along with that perfect headhunter talent. Now essentially, if you can kill a target with a headshot, your next shot deals an additional 150% of that killing blow's damage. Damage is capped to 800% or 1250% if your headshot damage on the build is greater than 150%, which ours is. For the gear, you want weapon damage, headshot damage, crit damage, and I am again using a headshot damage mod. The holster is Aces and 8s with weapon damage and headshot damage. The backpack is the same Providence piece I used on the first build with Vigilance, but for this build I have a headshot damage mod in place of that original crit damage mod. The gloves are also Aces and 8s with weapon damage and headshot damage. And finally, the knee pads are my fourth and final piece of Aces and 8s with weapon damage and headshot damage. Now the reason I like Aces and 8s on this setup is the bonus marksman rifle and headshot bonuses along with that dead man's hand 4-piece talent that flips cards as you land shots. After 5 cards are flipped, our next shot gets plus 30% amp damage, which is extraordinarily high. 4 of a kind gives us that amp damage on 4 shots, a full house, 3 amp damage shots, Aces and 8s, 2 amp damage rounds, and our deck flips an additional card on headshots. So if you can get an amp damage shot, hit a headshot, and crit all simultaneously, the damage output potential of Aces and 8s is just mental. Overall, crit chance and crit damage are much lower on this setup, but it is our headshot damage, which is in the same damage category as crit damage, that really picks up the slack. Down on the range and hitting headshots, this setup ranges from 3.8 mil up to a crit max of 10.1 mil once Aces procs and we land a crit. Between the Aces amp damage bonuses and perfect chain killer, this setup hits moderately hard, but will require you to consistently land headshots and achieve the killing blow, once again with a headshot. Skills for this setup are again the decoy and the revive hive, as we are not using spotter and can't take advantage of pulse. So let's next move on to the weapons, and here's the section where we kind of take a look at the Dredd Edict itself and where it falls within the current weapon meta. You see, once you toggle on your base damage stats for your weapons, you'll see the Dredd Edict has a base figure of 159.8k. And FYI, that is before all your bonuses stack up on top of it. This Aces build adds on another approximately 214k, and you get to a damage per shot of 374.5k, and that's without the bonuses from gear talents. But take a look at this. Here is my classic M1A that I've rolled on flatline, and yes, it has crit damage and damage to armor, which is different from the attributes of the Dredd Edict, but even so, the classic M1A has a base damage of over 205k, and once you add on the bonuses, reaches just shy of 455k per shot. That's an increase over the Dredd Edict of over 75k per shot. And not only that, the M1A allows me to recal the talent and adjust a few weapon mods to my liking. Yes, it is true that the RPM is lower than that of the Dredd Edict, but for me, what you pick up in damage per shot and in controllability, the M1A really suits my playstyle. Furthermore, and let's be honest here, most players are going to spam the trigger, which would pair much better with that first build I showed you. And in that case, yeah, you could use the Dredd Edict. But on the flip side, a lot of players are going to want to embrace the one-shot, one-kill mentality and will then gravitate towards sniper rifles like the Mantis or Nemesis. With this same ASUS build I've already showed you, and just using the Mantis, I can consistently hit 22mm headshots and find the weapon much easier to control and keep on target than the Dredd Edict. Now, if you are really wanting to hit absurdly hard, try equipping the Nemesis, and with this same ASUS build, I was anywhere from 49 to 52 million per shot. Breaking down the Dredd Edict a bit further, and yeah, I get where they were trying to go with this weapon, a fast rate of fire marksman rifle capable of sustained fire, but it finds itself in a kind of no man's land. It barely hits harder than a classic M1A, it is much harder to control, and it can't compare to the higher tier sniper rifles like the Mantis or Nemesis. I mean, I'd even place it quite a bit behind the White Death named M44. At this point, I've spoken about the weaker base damage and the recoil, which almost requires the use of a talent like Braced, maybe a few weapon handling attributes, or even something like 2 pieces of strikers to try and get a handle on this recoil. But the final piece of this weapon is the weapon talent itself, full stop. Now in concept, it looks enticing, but in execution, it doesn't function nearly as well as it looks. You see, you build weapon damage and headshot damage stacks by landing shots. 1 stack gained per body shot landed and 2 stacks per headshot landed, up to a max of 20 stacks. So in theory, if you can reach max stacks, you're picking up what, plus 40% weapon damage and plus 100% headshot damage, which, yeah, looks great. But if you don't achieve the kill shot with a headshot, the weapon will need to be reloaded, resulting in you losing all your built-up stacks and gaining a bit of bonus armor in the process. The weapon only has 10 rounds in the magazine. Alright, so are you starting to see the math problem here? You either have to hit every single one of your shots to the enemy's head to reach max stacks, or you have to hope to kill your target with a headshot kill prior to you needing to reload, so that the weapon will restore all the rounds in the magazine. If you miss a couple of shots or fail to kill the target with a headshot before running the mag dry, you will reload, resetting your damage stacks back to 0. Overall, I don't want you to think that all is lost with the exotic Dredd Edict. In certain circumstances, it can be fun and provides a challenge to chain headshots and headshot kills back to back. But, as I've already referred to, it has an identity crisis. It's barely on par with easier to control rifles, has massive recoil, and a weapon talent that is rewarding, but punishes you severely if you are not perfect with your shots. Plus, a player can opt for the Mantis, White Death, or Nemesis and see much higher kill ratios and headshot damage output. This is just my take on it, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty of build guide videos posted to YouTube applauding this new exotic, but, you know, for me, it was fun at times, just not something I would want to use consistently on one of my sniper builds. Let me know overall what you think of the Dredd Edict. Sound off in the comments section below. Don't forget to smash that sub button and ring the bell to receive all my future upload alerts. If you could take a few seconds more to rate and or share this video, it would be greatly appreciated. You can find and follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and over on my community Discord server, which is just moments away from hitting 5,000 members strong. Links to all my socials in the video description below. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.